Today, I want to share with you something that I could not have said to you in the first decade in my experience in gastroenterology. The system that I trained in and the system that most of you have been through to find an answer to your gut issues is really well developed to find cancer. It is also genuinely excellent in finding inflammatory bowel disease. However, it is completely useless in healing IBS. This is something I didn't realize for the first few years in my practice in gastroenterology. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share how I went from working inside conventional gastroenterology to building a practice focused on what actually works for IBS. What I saw inside that system, what broke my heart about it, and what I found on the other side. If you have spent years in conventional medicine trying to fix your IBS, you know how the story goes. You go in, you have all of the testing, you have a colonoscopy, maybe some stool tests, maybe a CAT scan or ultrasound, and then you're told everything is normal. Then you're sent on your way with some band-aids like Imodium and gas pills, antispasmodics, maybe stool softeners if you have IBS with constipation, at times even antidepressants, and you're told that it's probably stress. The practitioners inside the system are not bad people. They genuinely do want to help. However, our training in that system doesn't give us the tool to do that. I'm Anelia, a board-certified physician assistant with 11 years in gastroenterology, first inside conventional medicine where we were not able to successfully treat functional gut health issues like IBS, now doing my own practice in holistic healing where things look very different. I've sat on both sides. I know what happens inside the system when a woman with IBS walks in, and I know what's possible when we step outside of it. Today, I'm going to share with you 3 chapters. What I saw inside conventional gastroenterology, the moment that changed everything, and what I discovered that I now use to help women recover fully. Act 1. Inside conventional gastroenterology, what I saw and why it broke my heart. I spent 11 years in gastroenterology. I loved the work. We were genuinely helping people with colon cancer, at times Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, Barrett's esophagus, gastric ulcers. Colonoscopies absolutely save lives, and if you have not had one, please do. The reason to have a colonoscopy is to prevent and screen for colon cancer. This is really, really important. Unfortunately, a colonoscopy will tell you nothing about the function of your gut and why you may be having issues with the function of your gut, like IBS. What the standard gastroenterology workup for IBS actually looks like. Colonoscopy, which rules out cancer, polyps, inflammatory bowel disease. Endoscopy, which rules out celiac disease and upper GI pathology. CT scans rule out structural abnormalities or other types of cancer. Standard blood panel rules out thyroid function, anemia, celiac markers, liver imbalances. Results come back normal. Your diagnosis? IBS. Treatment, Imodium or stool softeners, antispasmodics, dietary advice, stress management. We do not diagnose IBS in conventional medicine. We just rule out everything else and then call what's remaining IBS. That is not the same thing. For years, I didn't fully appreciate the difference. The pattern repeated week after week. A woman comes in with urgent diarrhea or chronic constipation and cramping and gas. Her whole life is affected. She stops being able to travel, many times unable to work. She can't go out and eat at restaurants. She stops attending family events or going out to dinner with her friends. We run all of the regular testing that I just covered above. Everything is normal. We give her the regular band-aids, Imodium, gas pills, antispasmodics, tell her to follow the FODMAP diet, and we send her on her way. She leaves, and 3 months later, she's back. Nothing has changed. Many times, things have actually gotten worse. I watched this happen hundreds of times, and every time it broke my heart, and I felt the same thing. We were failing these women. Not because we didn't care, but because we didn't have the tools to find what was actually wrong. That feeling stayed with me for years, and then one case made it impossible to ignore. Act 2, the moment that changed everything. Shortly before I decided to look for other answers for people with functional gut health issues like IBS, there was a patient that had been in the system for years. She had seen multiple gastroenterologists. She had had all the testing. She had tried all the Band-Aid solutions, yet she was still struggling. Her life was completely unpredictable and revolving around the bathroom. What struck me wasn't the severity of her symptoms, it was her clarity. She said to me, "I don't think anyone has actually looked for what's wrong. I think everyone has just looked to me to make sure it's not cancer. She was right, and I didn't have an answer for her. That conversation stayed with me. She had articulated something to me that I had felt for years, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. The system was not built to find the cause of IBS. It was just built to rule out anything else like cancer, Crohn's, and ulcerative colitis. Those are fundamentally different missions. She didn't need someone to tell her it wasn't cancer, although that is an important evaluation. However, after years of struggling with symptoms and have normal results, she needed someone to tell her what's actually going on. I realized at that point I didn't have the training to do that yet. After that, I started looking. Functional medicine approaches to gut health, the literature on SIBO, comprehensive microbiome testing, gut lining integrity, and digestive enzyme function. What I found was not fringe medicine. It was clinical evidence addressing exactly what conventional gastroenterology was missing: the functional causes of IBS that live beneath what a colonoscopy can see. What I found on the other side of that research changed everything about how I practice, and it changed what became possible for my clients. If this is resonating with you, hit subscribe. I put out videos every week sharing with you how to heal your gut naturally from conditions like IBS. Now let me tell you what I found and what it made possible. Act 3, what I found and what it made possible. What functional medicine offered was a completely different set of questions. Not, is this cancer? But why is the gut behaving this way? Not, do the standard markers look normal, but what do the functional markers show? The shift wasn't philosophical, it was practical. The different tests, different information, different treatment protocols are built on that information. What changed when I made this shift? I started using comprehensive stool testing and found dysbiosis, parasites, inflammatory markers that explain symptoms nobody could explain before. I started assessing digestive function and found that a significant portion of clients weren't breaking down food properly, creating downstream symptoms. I started building individualized protocols based on what the data actually showed. The women didn't change. The questions I was asking changed. When the questions changed, so did the answers, and so did the outcomes. The first client that I worked with, I'm going to call her Sarah, she had a very high-stress job and did not have access to a bathroom almost the entire day. She thought she was going to lose her job because of her urgent diarrhea. Within 3 weeks of working together, her urgent diarrhea stopped. Of course, she was able to keep her job. She told me that she was able to go out with her husband, enjoy eating raw salads, which usually would have sent her to the bathroom for about an hour before. Her entire life changed. That outcome was not exceptional. It became the norm because the approach was right. What the women who heal in my practice share, they stopped trying to find the right diet and started finding the right data. They stopped managing symptoms and started addressing causes. They stopped accepting IBS as a life sentence and started working with someone who knew how to look for the actual problem. And that is exactly what I want for every woman watching this video. I want to be known for real results. Not fad diets, not one-size-fits-all supplements, not big promises without backing it up with actual results. Not telling someone to learn how to manage it or control their stress or eliminate other triggers, but actually finding the root of their problem and addressing it comprehensively. Not for some women, not for the lucky ones, consistently. When the right investigation is done and the right protocol is built around what it finds, healing happens every time. You're not broken. You have not failed at healing. You have been working within a system that wasn't designed to find what you need. There is a different way. And I've spent the last several years proving that it works. Now that you know my story and why I practice the way that I do, the next step is understanding what we're actually looking for. I made a video breaking down the clinical difference between bacterial overgrowth and yeast overgrowth, how to tell which one you're dealing with, and a self-assessment that you can do today. That's the foundation for everything else. Linked in the description and on your screen now.